I don't think it will be a full-fledged war. I suspect the Europeans, the United Nations, and maybe even Donald Trump himself are going to try to offer Iran an off-ramp to stand down. Donald Trump has made clear that it's not the U.S. desire to decapitate Iran's leadership. While the Israelis may want to get rid of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and have regime change, the United States wants to keep Ayatollah Khamenei alive, if for no other reason than if there is a formal surrender, they want someone to sign the surrender and turn over power to a provisional authority so that no vacuum comes to exist. So when it comes to an offer, I don't think it will be a full-fledged war. I suspect the Europeans, the United Nations, and maybe even Donald Trump himself are going to try to offer Iran an off-ramp to stand down. And again, Donald Trump has made clear that it's not the U.S. desire to decapitate Iran's leadership. While the Israelis may want to get rid of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and have regime change, the United States policy is not to do that. In fact, the United States wants to keep Ayatollah Khamenei alive, if for no other reason than if there is a formal surrender, they want someone to sign the surrender and turn over power to a provisional authority so that no vacuum comes to exist. So when it comes to an off-ramp, yes, there will be an off-ramp. Again, let's also remember in 1988, Ayatollah Khamenei decided to have a ceasefire in the Iran-Iraq war, something he swore he was never going to accept. He got on the radio and he said, "It's like drinking from a chalice of poison, but I have no choice but to drink from this cup if I want the Islamic Republic to survive." The question for Khamenei right now is which is more important, his ego or the survival of his regime? Certainly, however, the U.S. policy is going to be he needs to drink from that chalice of poison.
Right. Now, how might this impact the oil markets and the global economy, and especially the Strait of Hormuz? If Iran closes that, does that have an impact on India?
Well, 44% of the fuel that goes through the Strait of Hormuz ends up in Asia, most of that in China, but also to some degree in India. And so there might be a short disruption. However, there is an ability to have alternate supply. The United States is a major supplier right now. Saudi Arabia can ship fuel across the Arabian Peninsula to Yanbu. The United Arab Emirates have a pipeline that bypasses the Strait of Hormuz and goes into the Gulf of Oman. Also, remember that Iran needs to import gasoline. And so while the Iranians rhetorically might talk about closing the Strait of Hormuz, militarily they're not able to do that for more than about a day. Beyond that, they would be committing suicide. Their own economy, their own military would wither away should they try to close the Strait of Hormuz. Back in April and October 2024, when you had the Iranian missile strikes on Israel and the Israeli retaliation, the Iranians briefly started exporting some of their oil through Jask, which of course is also like Chabahar, outside the Strait of Hormuz. However, the latest statistics I've seen is that they didn't replenish their storage capacity after they exported that oil. And when they were doing that, they were not exporting more than 100,000 barrels per day through Jask. So the Iranians are going to be the ones who suffer the most. There might be a spike in oil prices, but I don't suspect it's going to last for more than 3 or 4 days, given that so many other countries have spare capacity.
Right. Now, how will this really impact Iran's relationship with Russia and China? What do you see?
Well, China's concern, of course, is that they're reliant on Iran and the Persian Gulf for so much of their oil and their liquefied natural gas. When it comes to Russia, Russia is going to be able to rhetorically support Iran, but they've got their hands full with Ukraine. I mean, in a sense, just like Iran cut Hezbollah loose, Russia cut Bashar al-Assad loose. And Russia may have no choice but to do something similar with the Islamic Republic of Iran. It would not surprise me if we see an end of the Islamic Republic. It would surprise me if we see a democracy form in its place. I suspect what we might end up seeing is a military coup on the part of certain factions within the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps that might try to strike a deal. Iranian sovereignty for Iranian non-aggression.
Right. Just moving on from this topic about Pakistan formally recommending U.S. President Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. What happens here with all this happening?
You know, the United States, it's likely that some of the U.S. operation was discussed with Asim Munir. Maybe not in detail, but maybe something to the effect of passing some messages to Iran or talking about the possibility of overflights. Perhaps it was put in the context of reconnaissance rather than military attacks. And also, one of the things we also likely discussed with Pakistan was, should there be any damage to U.S. aircraft? Ability of the U.S. aircraft to land inside Pakistan. Honestly, in 2003, when we started the Iraq War, we made a similar deal, ironically with Iran itself, that American planes could land on Iranian airfields and that the planes and the pilots wouldn't be molested. That said, there is a pattern in American-Pakistani relations where we will offer Pakistan incentives when we need them. And as soon as we stop needing them, then we stop being so generous. It wouldn't surprise me to see that pattern repeat here. And frankly, Pakistan knows when they deal with the United States, we are fair weather friends. Historically, when after the partition of India, wanted to ally with India, Nehru didn't want to ally with the United States. He wanted to go non-aligned. And so Pakistan was our second choice. It was almost like asking the pretty girl to the prom, getting rejected, and then going with the ugly girl instead. Well, Pakistan is used to us playing these games, and they should continue to be used to it, because India, frankly, is a much more important country.